Ohio, in the mid-1950s, this state became the final stomping ground for Penske's famous J1A Class 210-4 locomotives. The map indicates lines of the Penske in red and lines of the competitor and future partner, New York Central, in green. Photo locations are shown by dots. The Penske's Sandusky line was destined to be sold to Norfolk and Western as part of their 1959 merger with the Nickel Plate Road. The J1 locomotives were all built at Altoona in 1943 and 1944. These war babies had 69-inch drivers with a tractive effort of over 95,000 pounds, plus an additional 15,000 if the booster was used. And if the J1s were the stars, the supporting actors were other Texas-type locomotives borrowed from the great Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe. Even bigger than the Penske locos, the Santa Fe's were Baldwin-built and used 74-inch drivers. They had a tractive effort of 93,000 pounds and were oil burners. Together, the 210-4s brought forth a finality to steam's 100-plus-year show that no one could have predicted. These events did not escape the attention of Donald J. Crofta, who found Ohio's railroads to be the preferred subjects for his 16mm camera. In this picture, Don presents a look back at the last days of not just steam power, but the new diesels and, as it turned out later, the last days of PRR operation and the coming era of Penn Central. Bellevue, 1954. A southbound hopper train approaches Wheeling Tower. Several I-1 class decapods were used at Columbus Yard, where hopper trains were received from other lines. For instance, coal was regularly received from N&W or from Penske's L&N connection at Cincinnati for transfer to ships at Sandusky. The hoppers returned empty southbound. Note the icing platform in the background, provided for refrigerator cars. One of the landmarks of the Sandusky line was the tower at Attica Junction, where Penske crossed the B and O. A J1 heads north in the winter of 1955 and is seen again at Route 4 north of Attica. Another northbound hopper train passes through Bellevue, just behind the Nickel Plate Roundhouse. Southbound engine 6423 approaches Attica. At Bayside Yard in Sandusky, engines of both Pennsy and Santa Fe are found. Santa Fe 5014 arrives at Bayside in May 1956. Santa Fe 5034 heads north into Bayside Yard, pulls up to the yard office and drops back toward the service tracks. Santa Fe 5018 heads south past Wheeling Tower in Bellevue. Santa Fe 5035 heads up a southbound train. Dawn chased this one, catching it at Attica, Carruthers, and Chatfield as it works its way south. At Attica, a pair of H-10 consolidations are running light to Columbus, followed shortly later by the 5035. At Carruthers, the engine performs switching duties. And at Chatfield, the big Texas type heads into the siding behind the H-10s for a meeting with sister engine 5026, headed north. The H-10s accelerate toward Columbus, again followed by the 5035. The 5035 again at Bucyrus. Santa Fe 5020, northbound at Attica. Mr. Hunsinger, operator at Bellevue, hands up orders to a northbound coal drag as a nickel plate Mikado waits to take its local west. A pair of J1s running light head north at Northwest Street in Bellevue. At Frank, Ohio, another J1 is northbound with a coal train. And back at Attica Junction, the 6161 is southbound with empty hoppers. Just north of Marion, Ohio, the big coal dock at Harvey was a good place to observe the engines up close. This segment finds a northbound coal train stopping south of the dock as a northbound train passes. Then the waiting train pulls up for a fresh supply of coal and water before continuing on to Sandusky. Just north of Marion, Ohio, the big coal dock at Harvey was a good place to observe the engines up close. This segment finds a northbound coal train stopping south of the dock as a northbound train passes. Then the waiting train pulls up for a fresh supply of coal and water before continuing on to Sandusky. spent waiting for trains allowed the dock's laborer time to become acquainted with a friendly raccoon. Note that he wears his gloves when handling this pet. Don didn't say if he got in a pat or two. A bucket is lowered to pick up a load of coal to carry to the top of the tipple. Coal is dumped into the bucket by gravity. Then, the bucket is raised for dumping at the top of the tipple. Another hopper train passes under the coal dock. Returning now to 1953, Alco RS units are crossing the Maumee River Bridge at Toledo with a northbound passenger train. January 1954, an eastbound J1 is rolling along freight on the Toledo Division at Bloomfield, Ohio. Now, in 1955, a southbound freight is picking up interchange cars from Nickel Plate at Maple Grove. The same train passes through Tiffin. At Maple Grove, a friendly hogger invited Don into the cab while he set out some cars. And at Bettsville, the same train is found highballing north. At Nevada, Ohio, disaster struck on September 5th, 1955. The wrecked passenger train is picked up by the wrecked train forces, piece by piece. By 1956, diesels were clearly taking over. Recently acquired Jeeps are passing through Maple Grove on a southbound freight. Of course, there was still a lot of steam power on the roster in 1956. Another J1 is southbound at Gibsonburg, Ohio. At Maple Grove, sharks are backing over the Nickel Plate crossing. And near Walbridge, a J1 is eastbound in this 1957 view. The southbound Red Arrow pulls away from the depot at Toledo. The train crosses the Maumee River before the bridge tender opens the span to allow a passenger boat to proceed upriver. Sleeper Martin Brook provides first-class accommodations on the train. Moving ahead now to 1960, steam has been gone for 3 years, but first-generation diesels are in abundance as trains are found on the main line in the area around North Robinson and Bucyrus East. Moving out of Crestline Yard, a westbound freight pulls out under the hand of an experienced engineer, Emery Reimer. It's 1967. More action is found at West Yard in Crestline, Ohio. The green sign tells the story of a new regime. More than that, we now have a new railroad, the Penn Central. At West Yard in Crestline, Don's camera catches the Penn Central action, with emphasis on equipment lettered for the former railroads. A westbound freight has Pensy power and caboose. It's May 8th, 1968. Then Pensy E's are on an eastbound passenger train. On September 28, 1968, a passenger train is westbound at Dunkirk, Ohio, crossing the Ohio Central Line. At Ridgeway on the Ohio Central Division, a northbound freight has a former Pensy unit in its mix of motive power. And a northbound coal train has former Pensy units in its command. Crestline is a town that was served by both NYC and Pensy. A trailer van train is westbound on the ex-NYC while a passenger train pauses at the station. Then, a westbound freight crosses the former Pensy before the passenger train can continue west. And an eastbound freight passes with mixed units and a newly painted Penn Central caboose. On October 20, 1968, Don found this freight east of Bellefontaine with an ex-Pensy Jeep B unit in the lash-up. October 27th, former Pensy Power highballs through Bettsville with a northbound unit coal train. Moving deep into former New York Central Territory, an eastbound freight heads toward Cleveland from Guest Yard. There is extensive coverage of this area in Don's 3 volumes of Steam and Diesel on the New York Central. Pensy Alco Unit 2432, a C425 model, has a northbound puller coming from Guest Yard. And it's May 11, 1969. And a southbound freight heads out with a mix of power from both former railroads. With auto racks, huge boxcars, and second-generation diesels, this train shows many of the changes in railroading over the 16-year span of Don's film. It is to his credit that we have these images on which we can reflect today. In Volume 1 of Donald J. Crofter's Steam and Diesel on the Pennsylvania Railroad, you'll join Don for 7 visits to the Altoona area, filmed from 1954 to 1976. You'll find steam classes I-1, J-1, M-1, H-9, and H-10, plus diesels from EMD, Alco, and Baldwin, hard at work. His coverage includes Horseshoe Curve, Altoona Yard, and several mainline locations as far east as Tyrone. You'll get the last of steam and both first and second generation diesels, and even some rarities such as GM's odd Aero train, and the big Baldwin centipedes are included. Then you'll see the line change from Pensy ownership to Penn Central to Conrail. It's all here for you in Volume 1 of Don Crofter's Steam and Diesel on the Pennsylvania Railroad. And if you've enjoyed this coverage, look for more film by Don Crofter in Steam and Diesel on the B&O and his Steam and Diesel on the New York Central, a 3-volume set of classic railroading on the Big Four in Ohio.